What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 206 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk to you about Hard Boiled by Frank Miller and Jeff Darrow. This is, I believe, a 3-issue miniseries. It doesn't actually say anywhere in the book that it was 3 issues long, but there are 2 separate act breaks in the book, so I think it was a 3-issue miniseries. And this is the story of this guy whose name may or may not be Nixon, it may or may not be Henry, it may or may not be Curtis. We don't really know his name, and he is going through a bit of a crisis in his life, and I don't want to spoil too much about it, but we find out that there is more to him than meets the eye, and then he starts to find out that there is more to him than meets the eye. And this is a very over-the-top book. Like, there's over the top, and then there is so far over the top that you can't even see the top. That's how over the top you are. That's how over the top this book is. The back of this book has a brief little quote by Rolling Stone. Intricate, kinetic, and thoroughly outrageous. I think that's a really good way to describe this book. I enjoyed myself reading this book, but I know this is not a book that everyone would enjoy. I read this several years ago, probably almost 10 years ago, and there was a lot of really over-the-top stuff about this that I did not remember from reading it the first time. The book opens with this guy on the cover driving a van that's about to explode into an orgy. I did not remember the amount of sex stuff that is in this book, and it's full of it. Like almost every page, not quite every page, but there is a lot of just really over-the-top sexual stuff going on here that I did not remember from the first time I read this book. So if you don't want to see a van crash into an orgy that does not shy away from showing you stuff, if you don't want to see that, you don't want to buy this book. And I feel like it only gets more depraved as the book goes on. Also, this book is incredibly violent, and if you don't like violence, you're also not going to like this book. Now, I did remember the violence from when I read it the first time. I don't know what that says about me, that I didn't remember any of the sex stuff, but I did remember a lot of the violence. But this book is crazy huge violent, and to me, that was what I enjoyed about it. I liked turning a page and seeing someone's spleen scattered against a wall and a giant hole in their chest. I liked seeing that. I don't know if that says that I'm mentally crazy or something like that, but that was an aspect of this book that I enjoyed the most. The other aspect that I really enjoyed about this book also has to do with the art, and that's Jeff Darrow's art. He is one of the artists who I could just look at a page that he has drawn and just look at it for about 5 minutes. The only other time that I can think of where I said that was about Alex Ross and Mark Waid's Kingdom Come, where I could just open a page and just stare at it without even reading the words, just look at what's going on in that page, because there is so much going on the page here. It's almost like a combination of Where's Waldo and Frank Quietly. It's very Frank Quietly-esque, but I don't even think Frank Quietly has done anything quite this disturbing that Jeff Darrow has done here. I really love it, but like I said, it is not for everybody. So in a lot of ways, the plot here kind of reminds me of Total Recall. It's got this guy who finds out that there's more to his life than what he originally thought. It's very similar to that, although there's some basic stuff that's different. It also makes me want to reread The Filth by Grant Morrison and I believe Philip Bond. That also was a very similar story about this older kind of schlubby guy who finds out that there's more to his life than what he thought. I guess this is a very basic archetype that a lot of different storytellers like to explore, but this is very different than Total Recall, and it's very different from The Filth, but they also have quite a bit in common as well. I could very easily see this being made into a movie starring Jason Statham, directed by, I don't know, Michael Bay or Zack Snyder. It would be a remarkably awful movie, but I could very easily see them doing that. Look, you see this guy on the cover. Doesn't he look a little bit like Jason Statham? See that guy right there? I could very easily see him rattling off some of the lines of dialogue here, like, I'm an insurance collector, or something like that. I could see Jason Statham doing that. It would, even if it was a good director and a good actor, I still don't think that they could possibly make a movie that is good and is as interesting as this book. This is one of those times where you'll hear people sometimes say that the medium of comics can do things that no other medium can do. For that matter, every medium of storytelling can do something that no other medium can do. Movies can do things that television can't. Television can do things that radio can't. Radio can do things that none of them can. Comic books can do things that movies and TV cannot do. And a lot of times you will see writers and artists who just treat the medium of comic books as a place where they can tell their own movies because they didn't have the budget to do their own movie. Mark Miller is really bad about that, where he will do a comic book miniseries and then 2 years later it's a movie, and it's very apparent that he is just using the field of comics as a springboard to launch his own movie empire. But this is an example of comic books doing stuff that you just could not possibly get away with doing in a movie. And I'm not necessarily talking about all the amounts of sex and violence in this book, although I have a feeling even if they did a hard R movie, that they would tone down a lot of that for the movie. But this just has, like I said, when you turn a page and you're just staring at that page for 5 minutes, you're looking at all of the minute detail that Jeff Darrow put into this. I would not be surprised if I found out that it took Jeff Darrow like 2 years to do this book. And it's not a very long book, but he does so much work on each page, it's incredible. And there's just no way that you could duplicate that in a movie, because in a movie, there's as much detail as there is in real life. But in a comic book, there could be as much or as little detail as you want. There could be just two characters standing against a blank background, or there could be a wall and a floor, but nothing hanging on the wall or nothing on the floor. Or you could do what Jeff Darrow does, where he draws every single little line in the hardwood floor, and he draws every single nail and every single crack in the wall, and he draws every line in a guy's face, and he draws all the hairs on a person's head. It is so amazing that he is able to get away with what he does. And I would show you a page from this book, but I don't think that I would be able to find a page that would be family friendly enough for me to show you on film. But this is a really incredible book. I enjoyed the heck out of this book, but do keep in mind, if you don't like the outrageous amounts of sex and violence, you're probably not going to like this book. I can't tell if this book is trying to say something about our society, or if it's just Frank Miller and Jeff Darrow really like car chases and lots of sex, and they just wanted to do a book all about that. I can't really tell. If they are trying to tell something about our society, I don't know what it is that they are trying to say. So it could be one of those things where there's a message here and it's just going way over my head. But I did enjoy this book. I wasn't sure how much I would enjoy it rereading it again, but I did like it. But keep in mind, it's not for everybody. So just bear that in mind if you decide to seek this book out. So those are my thoughts on Hard Boiled. I hope that you guys liked this review, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.